Jeremy, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So Jeremy, let's start at the very beginning. You and I first met studying philosophy at Princeton, kind of quite a different setting. But you always had, I think, a very unique obsession that you applied to whatever you were focused on at the time. I remember distinctly at the time that was philosophy, and I think you went deeper and probably broader than I did. But you also then, I think, applied that to cycling at one point. You're very obsessed. You were always in your Lycra, walking around Princeton, which stuck out, and then later on to finance, and now to food. So, what is it about becoming obsessed with a topic and going deep into it that you think you really excel at, and how does the study of philosophy that you did at Princeton connect to now what you do with food?
I think it's just part of my nature, part of my psychological, way of mind. Maybe I'm an obsessive person. I don't like small talk. I don't like going into things kind of halfway.
Mm-hmm.
I think if I'm really interested in something and really passionate about it, I've always, completely consumed that thing. And how did I end up in food? Well, I think I've always been a very physical person. I've always been very into sports and exercise and movement. And at the same time, I've always been very analytical and very structured, mentally very organized. So I found cooking to be that perfect combination for something extremely physical and also something very mentally challenging. At the same time, it brings in that element of creativity, which is, I think I have a dualistic personality. I'm kind of in a way, not emotionless, but there's a cold, calculated,
yeah.
Very focused, concentrated person that has an ability to kind of disassociate myself from emotions. And then there's another side that's very warm and very creative and very caring, and I think that's where the element of hospitality comes in. It's hospitality, it's creativity, it's figuring out what makes people tick, what makes people feel good. So I think that's how I ended up in cooking. It's very dualistic personality, and it's very dualistic type of work.
Maybe just give us a little context on your journey from Princeton to now at Ikoyi.
Sure. So finished university, 23 years old, very, very in the prime of my existence. I think, when you finish university, you think you're the best in the world and you've made it, but actually you're nothing. And I realized that very quickly when I went into the real world and I wasn't surrounded by friends anymore, and I didn't have this spoiled existence of just pleasing myself. And I realized that actually this is it. I have to really make it. And I tried some things that I wasn't really destined for. I worked very briefly in finance. I wouldn't even say I worked in finance. To work in finance when you're 23 isn't working in finance. Mm-hmm. That's basically an internship for 1 or 2 years.
Dipping your toe.
You only really work in finance when you've been doing it for 5 to 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
And you're a real banker or something. But everyone that gets out of college and goes into a bank or something is really just a trainee. So I don't like to say that I had this career in finance. I'd say that I dabbled with it very briefly, and I felt like a caged animal. And, I had a tremendous amount of energy in university, explosive and limitless, basically. And so to have to sit down and stare at something that when the work was finished, I wanted to do more. I wanted to do other things, but you're kind of limited at that age. You kind of have to sit there and just
the sitting's hard. It's genuinely
yeah.
hard.
So I'd fantasize about escaping, and that's when I started thinking about cooking. So I was 23, 24. So I really think that cooking is the only career that I've had, because I really started it as my own choice of what I really wanted to do.
I remember you telling me that you were sort of cooking when you were just getting the initial idea, you were cooking for your roommates, I think.
Well, actually, I've been cooking since I was about 14.
Yeah.
My parents, my dad is Chinese, my mum's Canadian. They're quite different culturally. Chinese families are very food focused, flavor focused. Canadian families are very unfood focused. They like food, but it's very simple.
It's bland.
It's bland.
It's neutral.
Maybe a bit neutral, yeah. And so I felt like the family dynamic needed honing and optimizing. So as a kid, I took over the cooking to make it more delicious, more like intense so that my dad would be happy. And then I think that's where the like urge to cook came from, this idea of uniting my family, or at least improving the social interaction. And then I think that's where the instinct to cook came from. And then I figured this out when I was working, well, you know, dabbling in finance. I read as many books as I could about cooking, and I was very arrogant. And I was like, I read all these books, and because I was obsessed with it, I remembered every recipe, every detail. Like, you could ask me anything about any of these chefs and I would know exactly which recipe, and I would know which restaurant. And that time there was no Instagram. It wasn't that long ago, but
No.
that's when books were romantic. And I think there was a romance about cooking, and I had this dream of the beauty of cookbooks and seeing these places that I couldn't really see. And now it's all exposed, it's all out there. But back then you could really delve into your imagination. And that's when I was like, this is something that I want to get into. And then, so I left my career and my mini career in finance and started cooking. And that was pretty like eye-opening, because I realized no one gave a damn that I went to Princeton. No one cared that I had a top degree, that I was well-read, and there was, can you peel onions or can't you? And I felt quite old as well at 24, 25. Like, everyone else was 18, 19, and much faster, much more capable, much more intelligent in ways that I wasn't. And so I kind of loved that I had to start from nothing again. And, you know, I didn't have any support from my parents, and they were a bit upset with me. They're like, you've worked so hard in this professional world to get to this place in this very safe professional like path, which is going to set you off onto a really nice mortgage one day and like a stable family with a house. And now you're like doing this, and like, we're not going to pay for your lifestyle so that you can cook. So that was the best lesson that I learned, was not only having to do what I want, but also figure it out on my own and like get there. So that was like, you know, I had to do all kinds of jobs. Like, I had to work in like massive catering companies or like industrial kitchens just to like make ends meet, pay rent, while my friends were back in finance making hundreds of thousands of dollars. I think it was that was a really good time for me. I really liked that, because it was pure work. It was like, but it was also like psychologically like, why did I have this education if I'm doing this now? But I think everyone should have that kind of experience in a way.
Well, it's working out for you. But I think it's interesting. I know you think of yourself first as an artist, I think, right? Or as a chef, as an artistic chef. But when you talk about the story, you exhibit a lot of the same qualities we would look for in our entrepreneurs, right? Obsessiveness, complete commitment to like learning everything about the topic, a willingness to go against the grain. You know, particularly, I think, you know, what the safe choice your parents think you should choose. I think hustle, like you hustled your way into the Noma kitchen with I think, right to be there probably at the beginning, right? And, you know, hustle, kind of getting in the right room. So there's a real entrepreneurial drive, I think, to set anything up from scratch. And that includes a high-end restaurant. That's a very unique vision. And I think a lot of people would tell you that you're not going to succeed in that. You won't pull it off.
It's really impossible.
Yeah. I
don't know
and the odds are against you, right?
The odds are
definitely against you. But you have a pretty unique philosophy of food that you've developed over the past, you know, I don't know, decade or so. How would you try and describe that in a few words?
So I quit cooking. I hated it. I hated working in kitchens. I hated the things that I loved about it, obviously the cooking, but I didn't like the culture of cooking. It was very patriarchal, very hierarchical. It wasn't as meritocratic as I thought it would be, in a way. And there are a lot of like intense personalities in kitchens, and I think
yourself included.
Myself, but I think like they need to be managed, including myself. Yeah. They need to be called out, they need to be managed, and there needs to be a balance. And I think sometimes high pressurized environments, there's not always someone to say like, calm down everyone, like this is just cooking. When you're living in someone else's like dream,
sure,
it's really intense. You know, it's probably not the easiest experience.
Yeah.
It depends what kind of personality you are. And I think I'm a dreamer as well. So if you're also a dreamer and you're in another person's dream,
100%,
you want to do your own thing. And so I think that's more what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
But I think there are other personalities that like to follow and are really good executors. And that's that's fine too. But I just wasn't that type of person. I've always been.
And you need some of those to make dreams come true. But yeah.
So I've always been an individualist. And then so my best friend asked me if I wanted to open a restaurant, and we didn't know what kind of cuisine. And then we started looking at his heritage. He's Nigerian, and I tried his food from his where he's from. We went to Lagos, and I got this inspiration for flavor from this part of the world. And it was really inspiration for cultural open-mindedness in cuisine, which I hadn't seen before. In that, like, Western cuisine, technical cuisine, refined cuisine was all centered around France, Japan, Europe, and that this is the like symbol of refinement. And I realized that there's a whole world out there of flavor, and like cooking is about soul, it's about people, it's about heritage, it's about personality. And I think like I realized that like I could use spice as the catalyst for my creativity and express my heritage, which was really about spice and really about complexity. So that's kind of how it started. And then now it's grown into something very complex and even more undefinable. I'd say if I had to say what the cuisine was today, it's about produce, it's about seasonality, it's about studying seasonality and using bold flavors and spices to give layers of flavor and complexity to seasonal cuisine. It has its own identity, its own aesthetic. I mean, you'll see in the cuisine references to so many different ideas and things that you've experienced before, but you want it within the dish.
And I remember that I came when you just launched the restaurant, and one, I was excited to try the food, but I was also being a supportive friend. And I remember how you spoke about each dish and the story of the food, where it had come from, and really imbued it with, I guess a feeling or an identity that was quite unusual. And that was, I think, almost 7 years ago now.
Yeah.
Since then, you've added, I think, two Michelin stars. You've moved location. You've been, I think, awarded recently one of the top 50 restaurants in the world. How did you, what was the journey from starting when I came to where you are now, and how has it changed?
Well, doing that type of cuisine, which is very difficult to talk about in a way, but in a way it isn't. Guests come to the restaurant, they say, what kind of food are we eating? And I'm saying, this is, it's hyper-seasonal cuisine, and it's spice-driven. It's about flavor.
Yeah.
It's about representing cuisine with spice. Something very unmarketable. So we started, and when we opened, it was super busy because people were like, what is this restaurant? It's quite unique. Two friends, mixed cultural background. There's an element of like West African flavor to this restaurant because of one of the founders is Nigerian, but it's not a West African restaurant, but a lot of people thought it was. So many Nigerians came to the restaurant. It was full of only Nigerians.
I remember that. And me.
Yeah. And everything was getting sent back to the kitchen.
Yeah.
Everything. Why are we eating sushi? Why is the beef raw? And then we got a really good review from Sunday Times, from Giles Corrin, and then suddenly the whole restaurant was white. It was all women from different counties around England who'd like Giles Corrin, and they all ordered the same thing that was in his review.
No way.
And then that period died out, and then we were dead. We had like no guests. We had like one guest at 9 p.m. And it was a really dark time. We were barely hanging on. And that's when I like realized that I was a very difficult person, because I was unwilling to make food that was conventionally recognizable. Like, it had to be like my own. It had to have integrity, and it had to be completely unique and my own thing. And I even remember saying to my business partner, I'm the reason this business is failing.
What does integrity mean?
I think it means true to yourself and blocking out other voices. And I think that's when the food was its best, when we first opened the restaurant, because it was pure. It was like my pure soul. But as you get older, as you become more affected by what other people think, lists, Michelin stars, customers, industry, what people think about you start to mold your creativity around what works for society.
Instead of just cooking for one.
Yeah. So now I think the food is still stunning, but it's, in a way, it's been molded by society a little bit more.
Been in a dialectic, like a dialogue. Yeah.
So then I think the food was the best then, because it was in its raw form, but we were empty. But I basically just held on for dear life, and I pushed and pushed, and I pushed the food so hard that like chefs started to notice. So we'd be completely empty, but we'd have a 3-Michelin star chef from Japan eating. And it was so embarrassing because the restaurant was empty and I had to explain, oh, we just had a quiet night. We had, you know, Magnus Nielsen from Faviken eat with his whole team, and he showed up at 8:30 p.m. and the restaurant was empty. That's not a good feeling, you know, when VIP guests come in and you're empty. And I remember just feeling quite frustrated for many years, but I kept going. And I think the word in the industry caught fire, and I think the restaurant started to get a cult following with chefs. And then I think that's how the survival aspect started to kick in for the restaurant.
That's amazing, because that's even like, I didn't know that. I thought it was all sort of somewhat up and to the right type momentum, but so you actually went through kind of some tough periods.
Big time. And it's still gone through tough periods. Like
I guess running an institution like you do is challenging.
I mean, there's COVID, there's also like the attention span of like people that go to restaurants, and like, if you're a creative restaurant, people are expecting reinvention all the time. If you're not reinventing yourself, people don't come back. If you change your concept, people don't come back. And we've changed our concept a lot. That is the nature of the restaurant. It never stands still. It's like a demon. This is how I would describe it. It's like a demon that consumes cuisine. It consumes cultures, ideas, and it gets bigger and bigger. And now it's this enormous thing. It's huge. Like the creative, like energy that's behind Ikoyi is this like enormous like wealth of experience and details and like observations, and all of these like minutiae of like thoughts go into everything in the restaurant. So the way that we look at cabbage now is not how we look at cabbage. We used to look at cabbage when we opened the restaurant. When we opened the restaurant, we saw it from a very beautiful perspective, roasted in turmeric butter, like stunning. But now we see it from like many, many, many other perspectives, which are collective experiences from myself and from my team that we've gathered, so that now we have all this experience and we enrich in the food all the time with it. And that's how it's different to another restaurant, say French cuisine, which is
sort about more set in time. Or
it's set, and it can't really expand beyond that realm.
Right.
You can't really like, to an extent you can, but you can't really embed other experiences into a dish that's supposed to represent authentically a specific culture. But if you're a restaurant like us that doesn't claim any authenticity other than itself, you can use any tool you like to expand the cuisine.
So it's kind of like the food over time. It kind of is both affected by the experiences that you and your team bring to it and the perspectives, and it kind of affects you back. So it's kind of a relationship between the...
It is. And I think we call it self-referential now, in that when we started the restaurant, we used to look for external references to guide the creativity. And I think that's when anyone's starting a creative journey, you need to emulate something.
Sure, of course.
You need to emulate someone or something. And it's like a patchwork of like different people.
That's how you create your own voice.
Inspirers. And you look at their styles and you kind of blend them together to create your own style. You emulate them. That once your style's up and running and you have iterations of executions over the years, now what we do is we reference old executions, but we don't recreate them. We combine them and we expand on them, and we use previous new ideas as inspirations for current new ideas. So they're almost like self-referentially creative.
Let's talk about what it's actually like to run a restaurant. So you're both an artist in the creation of the food, then you are running the restaurant itself as something of an entrepreneur, of course, with your partner, taking on some part of that role. It's an interesting time to be building a business, right?
It's a very difficult time to be a restaurateur. It's probably the hardest time that there is, because we're up against so many challenges: technology, consumers' lack of attention span because of the content that's being bombarded with them. It's hard for people now to differentiate the truth. There is no truth. It's all just been atomic bomb with technology.
Yeah, we've gone from 15 seconds of fame to like 15 milliseconds, I think.
And like, how can you differentiate from all these videos what's actually good or not? You know, everyone's being paid to influence and create content for So I think it's really difficult, but I think we got in at the right time, just before this started. And we've managed to build a cult following. And I think of businesses now, I call it real conversions. So there's a technology conversion where people see you on Instagram. They come, they take the fit pictures, they post about it, and they never come back. We don't want those kinds of customers. I mean, we do, we welcome them, but generally they're not the ones that tend to come back. But if you think about a real conversion customer, that's someone that you make a genuine human connection with, but it has to be so powerful that they will remember it for the rest of their life and they will come back. And that's, if you keep on building that, it takes years and years. But now the restaurant is full of regulars because we've been doing this. We've been working on real conversions, which is making very strong human connections, friendships with guests, remembering their name, remembering what they like to eat, changing their cutlery, personalizing their cutlery, altering their menus every time they come back. You know,
it's interesting. It reminds me of Paul Graham, who's the famous founder of Y Combinator, and his big advice that's sort of, I would say, embedded in startup lore at this point is, find your first 10 to 100 customers that really love you. Don't try and scale to tens of thousands. Just find, even 10 that just truly, truly love what you do, and then you're onto something.
Yeah.
And obviously completely different, type of building, but kind of similarities.
I think it's a safer way, and I think it's the only way a restaurant can survive and have legacy.
Yeah.
Otherwise, if you're competing in the noise out there, if you're competing in the world of technology, you're going to lose a lot of money and you're going to be fighting this battle that you're never going to win. I would say that it's gotten harder as I've gotten older. Like, it's not a glamorous job. Like, people look at the restaurant, it's a beautiful restaurant, they think it's very glamorous, but actually, I work 18-hour days, sometimes 20 hours. I work on my days off,
It's a labor of love.
It's a labor of love. I'm heavily involved in the prep of the restaurant. And that's something I've not been able to extricate myself from, because the execution of the end product is related,
it's tied to that,
to my my vision and my take on what produce we're using. And because we're using such perishable, refined ingredients, especially, we do a lot of aging. We age a lot of meat, fish, shellfish. We work with line-caught fish only. We work with incredible farms in Cornwall. All of our beef is handpicked for us. It's grass-fed from one farmer. We have really amazing relationships. And I've been to all my suppliers, even our caviar supplier in Munich. I drove there to pick our caviar for the restaurant. In between days off, between services, it's like,
so you can't really delegate or scale without losing the essence of what
I can
Ikoyi
to an
is.
extent. Like, I have my head chef who's incredible. He's almost my twin. We execute on a very similar level, but there's some things that he does that I can't do, and there's some things that I do that he can't do.
So when you and I, when I watched the movie, I think it was with Ralph Fiennes.
Yeah,
it's called Chef.
Yeah,
I thought.
Oh, you're talking about?
Was it called Chef?
No, it's called no. I know the one you mean.
He ends up
killing everyone.
He ends up killing everyone. The menu. He ends up. He hosts a wonderful dinner.
Yeah.
There's all these sort of all the characters you sort of just described. The Instagram,
I love that film.
People taking pictures of their Instagram, the sycophants, the true fans. He makes them eat, I guess, his perfect meal, his last kind of contribution, and then he kills everyone. I watched that movie and thought of you.
I wouldn't be surprised.
And thought, I wouldn't be surprised if Jeremy, that was Jeremy's final act. You and I had some obviously intense discussions back when we first met each other, and both intense personalities. But how are you Ralph in the kitchen?
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not. That's not you. Because you're much mellow, or you're not going to kill everyone.
I'm definitely
combination
not
of both.
As I said before, I think I can be really brutal, but it's more about the work, the love of the work, the passion. And it's about sometimes communication can be direct, it can be intense, but overall, I think I have a very caring personality, and I really want to nurture my team. And I think it shows there's no one in my kitchen really two new guys joined, but everyone else has been with me for 3 to 6 years. My last sous chef was with me for 7 years. I think people stay for quite a long time with me.
Do you have any specific values that you sort of are explicit about in the kitchen?
Yeah.
Share them. Come on.
Uncompromising.
Uncompromising.
Yeah. Like never relent. Like we'll never ever like not call someone out on something. And
Yeah.
we'll always push. Like every day we always push.
You know, Mike Moritz, the
Yeah.
famous investor from Sequoia, said, when asked how do you build great companies, he said, the relentless application of force.
Exactly. Pure pressure all the time.
Pure pressure.
But also kindness. Like when there's the right moment, or when something beautiful happens, I will always say. If it's beautiful work that's taken place, we'll always say, but I'll always say when it's not. Just pure honesty the whole time. Pure honesty. But
and do you think people are willing to go on the 100-hour week journey with you? Do you find that?
No, they're not.
They're not.
And that's okay. Because it's not their business.
Dream.
It's not their business.
Right.
And I think that like chefs today, like young chefs, they get paid a lot more than they did 5-10 years ago. The minimum wage has gone up. The standard of living has gone up, as it should have. But I think like to work in a restaurant is a very broad topic. It's like saying I'm a musician. It's like, okay, are you Beyonce or are you like, you know, like just recording some things casually? So yeah, like it's the same in kitchens. It's like if you work at somewhere like Ikoyi, I have extremely skilled, like very, very talented people, and I think they deserve to be paid well. And so we pay them very well, and I think that they should have a good lifestyle as well. If you work at Apple or Google and you're a senior engineer, should you be paid the same as someone at a smaller company that's just starting out? Maybe not. I don't know. I think like hard work and like sacrifice and achieving like a standard should be compensated well. And I think in other industries it is, but in cooking it's not.
Yeah.
And so it used to be the thing that you work, the higher the restaurant you went, the less the pay, because you were paid in the kudos of having the experience of having been there.
Yeah.
In some cases you don't get paid. But if you work in a hotel or you work in a big brasserie or a bistro, you get paid quite well because they need the manpower, and your hours are better because maybe the quality of the work isn't as good and it's not going to necessarily like take you places. So
it always struck me that Noma, I think probably the most famous restaurant in the world, arguably I think, or reportedly never really made a profit. It just broke even every year. And I remember hearing that being like, wow, that's insane. That is the absolute pinnacle of food, and they're just making ends meet. I think he shut down the restaurant because he said he couldn't really make it work. He's still going.
Yeah, he's still going. I think he managed to. I think it's been very challenging for him, but you know, he's like one of the most inspiring chefs of our generation. I think he's in many ways incredible. He's a force of nature. But I think they managed to, you know, I honestly couldn't speak to what they do in their how their business runs, but it's still an inspiration, and people are still going there. One of my chefs who left me recently has gone to go work there, and I think like that is a restaurant that's like demonstrates pure grit and like explosive energy that's just, you know, turned into something very unique and creative.
And it was way ahead of the curve, I guess, and sort of trying to be more mindful about where we get our food from and how we think about food. Now that's obviously become a popular topic in mainstream culture, but it was way ahead of the curve.
Definitely.
And where does is there a finish line? Is there a point in which you say, I've achieved, what I wanted to achieve, I've delivered to the world what I wanted to deliver? I mean, there's no such thing as perfection, but is there a moment where you feel
I feel physically drained and very tired all the time. And I feel like as I'm getting older, it's harder to do what I'm doing. I used to recover quicker. I watched Novak Djokovic playing tennis. It's
a bit sad.
I know.
the great man. And, you know,
I feel a bit like him. Not that I'm nothing like him.
Yeah.
He's great, but I mean,
it's one more
I've done well
anyone
relatively in my field, and I'm pushing still, but I feel like there's a finite time limit to the amount that I can push. So I think at some stage, like I might have to change the way in which I work a little bit, but I don't think my journey's over yet. And I'm kind of keeping an open mind.
Sure.
I think I would I think I'm just living in the moment, and I'm still learning, and I'm still enjoying the craft of cooking. And there's many things I want to express, which I haven't done yet. In some ways, I feel like I'm just beginning, and I'm still at the end. So I think there's a lot more to express, and there's a lot more to go. And I think the world is changing so dramatically. It's kind of terrifying. Like, people don't even notice how much is changing because they're too distracted. But economically, socially, the way we're behaving as people is just like, and we're just drones. We're not even noticing it. And so I'm just kind of going along this journey, curious. I'm just curious about how much more will life alter, and can I survive it? And that's kind of my daily feeling. It's there's a sense of hopelessness in it. There's a sense of hopelessness, but there's also a sense of humor and like enjoyment in the process.
Of course, staying curious.
Yeah.
The Novak thing, that I also watched that one. I think it was played in Yannick Sinner and Wimbledon a couple of weeks ago. And there's this thing in tennis, I think, because it's so intense, like one mano a mano, a woman against women, two people on the court. And he, it always seemed almost indestructible, right? His peak, it was just like no one could touch him. Not Federer, not Nadal. Yeah. And then suddenly, at the peak of the seemingly indestructibility, some young fellow or woman just sweeps up and kind of breaks the kind of, I guess the mirage of indestructibility. It's kind of a fascinating thing to watch. Where does this drive come from? One of the things we've noticed with many people on this podcast is there often is some deeper drive, oftentimes rooted in childhood. We had Alain de Botton on the podcast recently talking about that. For you, this desire to create, something beautiful, lasting, leave a legacy, be your own person. Where do you think that comes from? Be honest.
These issues always relate to childhood, don't they?
Typically.
I think like it's a combination of things. I think.
What was your childhood?
I think it's
like?
my energy levels are very high. Yeah. So I'm inclined to do something that like allows me to release,
to move,
energy. I think like having a very like mixed background, having parents that are like quite culturally different has given me a sense of like wanting to unify and bring people together. And I think that's probably the essence of this drive. It's like rooted in this like need to unify and need to perfect, like create some kind of harmony out of chaos. So I think that's probably where it comes from.
It's a very Eastern idea as well.
Yeah.
But let's go a level deeper on actually running the restaurant as well. So I don't know, let's give people a bit of a glimpse behind the curtain. You've got, say, 40, 30, 25 young, hungry, brilliant people working for you. Typically, I think the kitchens are quite small always. At least that's what I sort of glimpse from the restaurants. What's the kind of like, what's the vibe? How do you keep everyone running on time? It seems like an incredibly complicated, precise operation that needs to be run every night.
Yeah. It needs to be run
or more than
night and day.
Night and day, yeah.
It's a full-time operation because we don't work with big wholesalers when it comes to prime ingredients. We work with line-caught fishermen. We work with line-caught fish, this incredible farmer butcher.
So you've created your own unique supply chain.
We have like very niche ingredients. We work with this like citrus farm in the Pyrenees, which we've also driven to. We meet all of our suppliers and we try to like develop very close relationships with them. Vegetables, they're grown around the UK. I take my team to visit them at least once a year. And so we really understand nature and we understand like what's like in the moment. And that's also part of the essence of the restaurant.
And in like when you're actually like in the kitchen, are you like who's telling who what to do? Well, and how are you making sure that it's all done correctly?
The reason why I talk about the produce is because like that is the like life force of like
you get that right.
The restaurant
it takes care of itself.
And I think like that's myself and my head chef and my 2 sous chefs. All 4 of us are like constantly managing this supply chain. We can't just show up at 9 a.m. and hope that things are there, because every day we have people coming in expecting something stunning So I can't just call a wholesaler and say, can I get some sea bass, please? They're going to send me sea bass, but is it going to be any good? No, we have to serve like something unique, something personal. So ours will be one stunning Ikejime line caught aged sea bass that we've ordered 2 weeks ago, and we've aged for that specific day. So every day I have different chefs coordinating, ordering specific produce, planning for weeks ahead, sometimes months ahead. And so that's the first element. It's like the produce planning around the restaurant menu, the guests that are coming in. If you were to come in and eat, I know that you've been before because we've had this interview. I'd love to do something quite special for you. So I'd look at the diary and I'd say, Cameron's coming. We're going to do him the beautiful chestnut-fed pigeon. Let's get 2 aging for him and his family, and we'll put those aside. So we'd think about that. So that's the first element of organization, is the produce systems and allocation. So every day we meet in the morning. We meet at 7:30, 8 a.m. and we go through every single guest. We go through every single dish, and we go through every single garnish. There's a weight, there's a gram to everything. Sauces, vegetables, caviar, truffle, you name it. We've dialed in every single dish, all the dietaries. What are people having? What can't they have? What's the substitute? So imagine you have this list with hundreds of elements on it, and we meet and we go through every element with every single chef. So already the day starts with this like intense focus. And everyone has a notebook, everyone has to be writing things down. We have a discussion on what we're going to be doing. We talk about how we're going to cook things. And sometimes we have new produce coming in, so we need to discuss how it's going to be prepared.
It's a real team effort.
It's really intense. It's every morning. And today I missed it because I'm here. But so I think that's how the discipline starts. It's like me being there, my head chef being there.
At 7:30 every day.
Yeah. And just having this like meeting. But before the meeting, we clean, we scrub the floors, we pack away the produce, and we have a very like rigorous way of packing away ingredients. So everything comes in is trimmed from the farms. We don't just take veg and put it in the fridge, which a lot of people do. We take the vegetables, we run them under cold running water to release all the soil, and we trim anything inedible, and we prep it to 95% within eating kind of state, and then we pack it away. So it creates minimal work when it comes to actual execution. And that way, this way of working with produce keeps everything in its heightened state. So that's the discipline that we're instilling every single day. And then the day starts, and it's just relentless all day. There's so much to do. Like there's never a moment when anyone is like, can I have something to do? And the workload is insane. But I think it's a journey that we're on together. And I think people that work with me, I'm very lucky that a lot of them have come from abroad, from Korea, Japan, Australia, Iran, Greece, Italy, USA, Guam, Canada. Like my team is all international.
So some people listening to this podcast might think, well, you know, the world as it is today, why does this all matter? You know, you're a high-end restaurant, you know, serving, you know, probably 50 people a day. Why is it important? Why do you think what you do and Ikoyi does is important for the world?
I think like one thing is we create a community, an amazing community of diners, of people that work in the restaurant, of values. We create like this incredible, it's not just a restaurant, it's a work ethic. The restaurant is a work ethic. It's like an emblem for caring for people. It's about hospitality. It's about experience. Like that is all we have, life experience. It's everyone lives for like what's next and like what's on their phone, but really all you have is what's going on right now. So I always think about it. It's quite simple, really. Let's make a really like loving, passionate experience for people so that they feel amazing and that they remember this. And it's like, that's all they'll have is their memories and their experience. So let's give people the best memory that they ever can possibly dream of in terms of food, in terms of warmth, in terms of caring. And that's it. That's what it's about. Yeah.
Let's go a layer deeper into your actual creative process. How do you know, you're staring at the I guess proverbial blank plate. How do you create a dish or come up with a dish from scratch?
It's a very difficult question to answer. I think it comes from somewhere very subconscious, somewhere very deep down.
Did you start with some ideas?
I think I start with What ingredients inspire me? Like, what ingredients do I see opportunity for deliciousness? That's the first thing. Like, things have to be delicious. Things have to be relatable. So I look at seasonality in a very broad spectrum. I look at all the raw materials. You can't have a dream and an idea of an execution without the raw material. So you need to start with the raw material first. That's the first thing. You can't exist. You can't create in a world without, you know, the building blocks. So I start with the raw material, and I think, what raw materials are in my universe? What raw materials relate to me? What raw materials do I see opportunity in? And so let's talk about mussels. I'll talk about one dish and how I created it. We make this dish. So mussels, I think mussels. Why do I want to put mussels on the menu? Because in the UK, we have some of the best mussels in the world. We have some of the most incredible seafood in the world in the UK. UK is not really known for gastronomy as much as, say, France, but honestly, I think we have some of the best ingredients on the planet. We have incredible old farmland. We have amazing, you know, cold waters. We have the most stunning seafood, fish. It's a paradise for chefs. So I started with mussels. I'll start with mussels. This will give you an idea. And I thought, I have to have mussels on the menu because they mean so much to me. They're so sweet. And then I think about sweetness. What is it about sweetness that I love about mussels? And then I think about desserts. And I think, wouldn't it be nice to wouldn't it be like inspiring to kind of take this element of sweetness from the mussels and like create a reference to something dessert-like? And so that's the essence of the idea. And then I think, well, what goes well with mussels? What are mussels? How do I relate to mussels? And then I just started thinking about bouillabaisse. That's my favorite French soup, seafood soup. Why do I like bouillabaisse? Because it has spice in it. It has saffron. It has smoked paprika. It has this like seafood, shellfish, you know, richness and depth to it. So these are the associations that started to form around mussels. So I was like, okay, I have bouillabaisse and I have mussels and I have a dessert. And then I was like, well, if I want to create this essence of dessert-like texture with the mussels, why don't I make a creme caramel? Because creme caramel is a very like silky thing. And I think if I blend the mussels with the spices from the bouillabaisse, I can create this beautiful velvet texture. So we made a creme caramel of mussels and saffron. And so when you taste this dish, you have the like sweetness and the umami flavor from the mussels, and you have that like smoky saffron taste from the bouillabaisse that comes through in the seasoning, and it's bright orange, so it has the texture and the color of the flesh of mussels, but it's very smooth and very silky, and it has a natural sweetness. We don't add sugar or honey to it. The natural sweetness comes from the mussels.
So it starts with kind of being incredibly mindful about the building blocks, and then you sort of
expand from there.
Expand some creative associations from there, and perhaps invert some.
And I think like the idea of a creme caramel came about because we wanted this to be a caviar serving. So caviar goes really well with eggs, and that's why I wanted to incorporate this idea of a creme caramel, which is a steamed flan made with eggs. So it's a saffron and mussel custard essentially that's set like a creme caramel, and we serve it with caviar, and then we enhance it with more shellfish. But so getting back to the question, I just wanted to illustrate it with an idea, with a specific concept. It starts with raw material, and then it has to be raw material that inspires me, that I connect with. I cannot pick like a guava. I will never just pick a random ingredient. And I think
what's wrong with a guava?
Guavas are beautiful, but I don't see beauty in guavas, like personal beauty. So I think, to answer the question again, like in simple terms, I think if you want to create something stunning and something beautiful, you have to have a relative personal relationship with the thing in itself. You can't just say like, I think this is where creativity can go wrong, is when chefs or musicians or artists, like, they idealize something that they don't really know. You really need to know something in an intimate way. You need to have a romantic relationship with it. So I'm romantically involved with mussels because you know, I've eaten great mussels in Belgium. I've eaten great mussels in England. I've eaten great mussels in you know, the south of France. And I think like all these different experiences of mussels have like enriched my passion for mussels. And it's capturing that feeling and the dreams associated with that feeling and compressing them into the dish. That's how the creative process starts.
So we finish every podcast, Jeremy, by asking our guests what it is about them that have enabled them to rise to the top of the field, or their field. So what is it about you?
What is it about me? I think I have a relentless kind of consistency in what I do. I haven't stopped since I opened the restaurant in 2017. Well, we started the process 2015, so 10 years now. Since I decided this is what I want to do, I have not stopped. I have not backed down, and I will never back down.
Not back down.
No, not in an aggressive physical way, but you know, I always I say to anyone that wants to start a business, you have to fight to the death. You have to sacrifice your lifestyle and your friends and your family if you want it to really work. And I think like I've just bought into that idea, and I've like realized that like sacrifice is the most crucial element, especially in the germinal stage of a business. You cannot say, oh, but I still want to go on this holiday, or I want to do that. No, I've never.
To get something from 0 to 1 requires 100%.
And I think consistency.
Commitment.
I've been very consistently disciplined. I haven't taken my eye off the ball for 10 years. I've kept it laser focused for 10 years, and it's still there. You know, I still think about it every day. I wake up every morning thinking about it, and I go to sleep thinking about it. And, you know, and I'm hungry right now, and I'm tired, and I want to do things that I can't do because I'm too tired and I'm frustrated. But there is a list of things that I need to do for the business, and they're going to happen next weekend. And I think that ferocious like drive is what like, you know, allows things to happen.
Yeah. Thanks so much for joining us, Jeremy.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.